Welcome back to another episode of Four Down Territory. My name is Miles. Alongside me, as always, is Sam. Week 11 complete, Sam. A few changes in playoff standings, mainly due to bye weeks, but certainly things are heating up as we run into the NFL playoff season. Exciting times.
It really is. I think this was a fantastic week. I tell you what, I sat down this morning and I watched 3 games, that being some of the later games Sunday night, of Seahawks, Rams, Chiefs, Broncos, and Lions, Eagles. And, you know, they felt like low-scoring games, but really good like defensive battles between some of the best teams in the league. We were really treated this week with some quality matchups. I think it was a nice week for games. And like you said, playoff picture really heating up as, we're seeing some shifts. We're seeing some teams pull away in their divisions and whatnot. And, you know, teams are getting really close to solidifying a playoff spot. Lots of excitement coming. And I thought I really enjoyed a good graphic I saw of all the odds of teams. And there's a lot of, division favourites that are sort of set in stone now. It feels like they're the odds-on favourite for sure. But there's still, I can't remember which division it is. There's still one division that's still got a decent mix in there. But it does feel like everything's still up to grabs for these last, 7 weeks now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at some, like quickly going through them, the NFC East feels like it's already set in stone that the Eagles are winning that. Yeah. You look at the North, the Lions have taken away in at that. The Bucks, despite losing, we expect them to win. But then you look at the NFC West, and despite the Rams winning 2 games against divisional opponents, I still feel like any team can win that division. I think that's really good.
You know what? You've actually reminded me. I got that wrong. It wasn't that there was one team that was set in stone. It's that there was only one team. No, sorry, one team that was close, the one division that was close. It was one division that was set. Every single, I think,
really
7 divisions had some really tight odds at the top. Like the sort of, it was in the US format of plus whatever, and it was in the plus hundreds for 7 different divisions, except for that NFC East, where it's obviously the Eagles are running away with. But I thought it was awesome to see that, there's still so much that could happen to change the orders as we get down to these last 7 weeks. It's very exciting.
Absolutely. Right, fire away with your stat of the week, Sam, for week 11.
My stat of the week, I had so many selections, Miles, that I've even forgotten which one I was going to go with. I'm looking at the Carolina Panthers, Miles, just about the most up and down team we've got this season.
Certainly are.
And there's one key factor that's contributing to those ups and downs, Miles, and that is the coin toss. Would you believe it?
I saw this.
The Panthers are 6-0 this season when they win the opening coin toss, but they're 0-5 when they lose it. So, they've got to put some sports science into how they can predict this coin toss better every week, because that's obviously the key factor into winning and losing these games for some reason.
I don't know if you also saw, but the overtime caused a bit of controversy with the coin toss as well. The fact that the referee gave the Panthers 2 choices when you're meant to go, obviously, whoever wins the toss gets to pick if they kick or receive. And then after that, it goes to the other team to say which way they want to defend. But the referee actually gave the Panthers both decisions.
Hey.
Yes.
Ooh.
So I don't know if that had any effect in the game, but I don't think the Falcons were ever coming back from winning that game. They certainly didn't look like the team that was going to win it from that last, third quarter onwards, really. But that's quite an interesting stat, the fact that the Panthers are that successful with just winning the coin toss.
It's one of those weird, just random, let's be real, it has absolutely zero. Well, it has like a 10% effect on the game.
I feel like we did one last year where it was like one team didn't lose a coin toss until like week 14 or something crazy. I can't remember I think it might have been like the Buffalo Bills. They won every coin toss going forward.
But, that's got to be such a good little record to have in
that
your
is,
pocket, isn't it?
I kind of just want to highlight some NFL history that happened this week. Obviously, we had Josh Allen tie Cam Newton with the all-time leader in rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in the regular season with 75. We had Travis Kelce set the touchdown record for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then give some love to your Ravens as well, Sam, because Mark Andrews is now the leading receiver for the franchise record for the Baltimore Ravens, despite being the second tight end taken by the Ravens in that draft class.
and that is the Ravens' way. There's been 2 or 3 occasions where we've taken 2 tight ends in a draft, and the second one has always been more productive. I think Dennis Pitter was the first one off the top of my head. But yeah, obviously Mark Andrews. it's funny. And in fact, I think the next one might have been Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kolar. I think they were in the same draft class, and
Oh,
Kolar
really?
went
Oh, that's
first, I
quite cool.
believe. But yeah, it's great for Mark Andrews because a lot of negativity going his way following that drop in the playoffs last year, and people saying that he didn't need to be on the team anymore. He had himself a quality game, didn't he? I think that hurricane play call that we had with the
That was
fake
really cool.
sneak was
really
a beautiful watch. Certainly got me fired up, but. Yeah, I'm happy for him, and it's funny seeing some NFL fans' reactions, seeing the yardage that he's on, and being like, "That's a franchise record.
Yeah.
What are you?
Yeah.
What's going on?"
Well, you got to think it's still quite a young franchise.
Yeah.
If you think about it. Obviously, what when was it? 96.
Yeah.
There you go. So, and you've never really had a number one like dominant receiver in that time. So it's quite nice to. It's a recent guy taking the record, and one that you could see broken further down the line from a number one if that ever comes into the Ravens' room. So that'd be quite interesting to keep an eye on in future years. Maybe Zay Flowers gets close in a few years' time, but that'd be pretty cool. Right, let's start off with Week 11 action, Sam. We start Thursday Night Football with the Patriots beating the Jets 27-14. I stayed up for the first drive, Sam, and I saw Justin Fields run a touchdown, and I thought, wow, I'm going to go to bed now. And thinking the Jets have won, woke up, obviously the Patriots have won, and they were the first seed in the AFC at the time. Drake May, man. We titled it last week being Drake
really
May.
That. Yeah.
But he is just consistent week in, week out for this Patriots team. He's doing a phenomenal job. And then it's finally nice to see Trevion Henderson come out of nowhere really this season and score 3 touchdowns as they win against the Jets. It's just a convincing victory for them, but also puts pressure on the Bills to really chase them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I could reply to all 3 of those points you've made there, because with Drake May, for starters, the consistency thing, I feel like a broken record at this point. We weren't expecting this out of college this quickly, and here he is, being that stud quarterback. We basically a top 5 quarterback already in his second year. Probably still MVP odds on favorite. I take it. I haven't checked, but I would assume so. Trevion Henderson, what you're saying about coming out of nowhere, I feel like I said it again last week. It's hardly come out of nowhere when you think of what he was doing in college, but it's just the fact that he just hasn't had the usage this year, has he? And it's taken Ramondre Stevenson to get injured to finally push him into this RB1 role. Losing Stevenson and Gibson, and he's that final running back that they had on the week 1 roster. And he's getting his touches finally. A hat trick for him is unbelievable, but also the kind of thing we expected when he got drafted. We knew he was a huge playmaker. And then that last point you made about the Bills really puts the pressure on, because I didn't realize that what the Bills are 7-3, so it's 2 games that the Patriots have on them now. Which is a nice little lead. I think they've got to play each other one more time, right, before the end of the season.
They still do, but it's in New England.
Exactly, and so now we're talking about the Patriots winning that and getting another game on them. Hey, the Patriots have a real opportunity to win the AFC East, which I think I had them as a 7 seed this year, didn't I? And I
had them missing the playoffs entirely.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We were saying, it feels like a bit of a long shot. It might be too soon for Vrabel to turn this franchise around. But, Mike Vrabel's set the culture. Drake May's come out, I don't say come out of nowhere. He's really excelled beyond what we were expecting. The defense has been phenomenal. Can't say enough good stuff about the Patriots.
I think looking at their schedule as well going forward, obviously, next 2 games, Bengals and the Giants, they're winnable games there. And then you've got 2 challenging ones in the Bills and the Ravens. And then after that, easy finish off with the Jets and the Dolphins. This is a team that could easily only lose 4 games this season. And with only losing 4 games, you've got a great shot of winning the AFC East. You have a great shot of having a home game in the playoffs, which would be vital for them. They've been criticised a lot this season, but for how easy their schedule has been. But you've gone out and beaten the 2 biggest teams on your schedule, that being the Bills and that being the Bucs. So if they can continue that, it'd be very good. Took a little check of the odds for MVP. It is no longer Drake May, Sam.
Okay.
I'm surprised by this with the way he played this week. It's Matthew Stafford at 1.
Okay, yeah.
I did
Interesting.
say it a few weeks ago that Matthew Stafford would win it, but I'm not quite convinced after that game. But we'll dive into his performance later on.
It's funny. I just want to come back to what we said about them playing the Bills. It's the Bills in Week 15 after the bye week, so it gives even more advantage to the Patriots. Extra rest, extra game planning time to spend on that game. And really get them ready for what will be a big divisional clash.
Absolutely, that will be very big. We had our first Spanish game in the NFL. The Commanders lost to the Dolphins in overtime. A terrible interception for Marcus Mariota. But it didn't sound like, it sounds like the NFL won't be going back to Spain anytime soon with the way, one, the game went, but also the organisation of it all apparently wasn't great. So we'll move on from that. We'll skip to another overtime game, though. The Panthers beat the Falcons 30-27. Bryce Young, hey, it's about time he started to have things clicking in Carolina. But like you said, six wins this season is a massive improvement from what we've seen from the Carolina in the past. 450 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. That's an incredible stat line for him.
The Panthers have the same amount of wins as the Bucks. They're just a game behind on account of the bye week. It's 6-4 for the Bucks, 6-5 for the Panthers. Did I have the Panthers going to the playoffs as well, or maybe being? I think I said close to the playoffs. I think as I said, pushing that. In fact, now that I think about it, let's not give myself too much credit. 'Cause I'm pretty sure I had the Falcons winning the NFC South. How bad?
I think I did too. Yeah.
No, I think you were Bucks. I think
I was Bucks.
Yeah, I think I was Falcons, and then I think I said Panthers 2, Bucks 3, and the Panthers edging it by like one game or something like that. Which is probably the worst division prediction I've had out of all 8. But, never mind. I think the Panthers have just, like I said, been that up and down team, and this was one of their up games. I feel like they could have been a little more convincing. But it was nice to see them get it done through the air. Dowdle was kept in check, 2.4 yards per carry. But Bryce Young throwing nearly 450 yards is unbelievable. And this is a guy who our resident Bryce Young fan sent into our group chat something along the lines of, was it who has the most game-winning drives over the last
game-winning drives, yes.
Yeah, over
since
the last
2023.
That's right, and it was indeed Bryce Young, so very impressive from him.
I didn't want to sound like a homer, but do you know who has it since 2024?
It's Bo Nix, isn't it?
Bo Nix.
That was going to be my first guess, but then I thought about it. I realised who sent it, and I was like, it's going to be Bryce, isn't it?
I was looking, though, you mentioned, obviously, how close the Carolina Panthers are pushing the Buccaneers. We need to look at this wild card race for the NFC, because it is really heating up as well. The Lions are on 6 wins, the Panthers are on 6 wins, the Niners on 7, the Packers on 6 wins, the Seahawks on 7. There's so many teams close here. I didn't even mention the Chicago Bears are absolutely flying as well. They'll also be in contention for a wild card spot. Well, they're currently winning the division, but I'm very impressed with how well the Carolina Panthers have been performing so far. If they can continue this, we're looking at. I think the challenge is the Niners. The Niners are the one that's I think are definitely going to get a wild card for space now. If the Carolina Panthers can push to the Niners record in that wild card spot, they've done a very good job this season.
It is mental to think that the Detroit Lions might be a top 5 team in the league, but are currently outside the playoff picture.
Yeah.
If I had to make a prediction, I would say that they will be coming back to win the NFC North, because I think the Bears, out of the 4 current divisional leaders. I saw a graphic which had all 4 remaining schedules. I think it was the Bucks had it the easiest. Seahawks have it pretty hard. Eagles have it kind of hard, but they're going to win the division anyway. And the Bears have it tough. It's going to be a tough one for the Bears. I think they've got to play the Lions once. Oh no, they've got to play the Lions once. I think it's the Packers twice. So there's going to be a big mix-up in the NFC North. This is definitely not set in stone yet. So I do feel like the Lions will still make the playoffs, but just seeing them on the bubble for the wild card spot is just unbelievable.
It's quite. Well, I wouldn't say it's concerning, actually, because if you think about it, the Lions have just been so dominant in.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I think we're just used to that, aren't we? We're used to just seeing them there already. Like especially after last year, where it was 2 losses all season, 1 loss all season.
I mean they flew through the regular season last year, and then obviously the Commanders came along to Detroit and had a word with them. But if you look at saying that, you even look at last week. I mean, they weren't convincing the Detroit Lions, but the week before they obviously got their revenge against the Commanders and put up a fantastic offensive performance. I can see them cruising through in continuing that at the latter stages of the season, really. So I'm not as concerned for the Lions. If we look at other teams around here, it's more the battle between the Bears and the Panthers to see who can really push for that wildcard spot is what I'm excited for. I know you wanted to introduce a little player of the week this week, Sam, for certain games. I want to give some flowers to the Rook. Tetairoa McMillan was phenomenal this game. 8 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. If there's any player that deserved player of the game, you could give it to Bryce Young with obviously how well he played, but having that reliable number one receiver in Tetairoa McMillan is exactly what he's needed to succeed in the NFL.
Yeah, it felt like it took him a while to find the end zone, didn't it, Ted? He finally got his first touchdown against Dallas in, what was that, week 6, I think. Got 2 in that game. Had another touchdown drought over the next 4 games, and he's got another pair of touchdowns in this game. So you can still see where he's that end zone threat. He's still, he's always going to find the end zone.
I mean, he's a special talent.
You
look at the frame and how quickly he can move.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's just the run after catch.
They were lining him up in the slot a lot this week as well, which I really liked. It reminded me of like a Stephon Diggs, the way that he played in Buffalo. He would line up inside and be able to create mismatches, and that's exactly what they did with Tet this week. It was really good to see. I was very impressed with the play calling from Dave Canales, so it was good to see. For the Falcons, though, I do want to quickly touch on it. It's basically playoffs out the window now. Their percentage is 1% to make the playoffs, but also injury-wise, Michael Penix going out with a knee injury, Drake London with a PCL. It's just everything's fallen short for the Falcons this year.
And the worst thing about it is that this team looks like they need to keep building pieces, keep recuperating to rebuild this team. They don't have a first-round pick next year because guess where it is? It's in the Rams' possession. Yep. So the Rams are now getting a top 10, which could fall to a top 5 pick. I think we'll probably go on about that when we get to the Rams game, but it's just unbelievable.
Well, you look at the Falcons' history with their picks. Obviously, you notice the offensive players have taken, all being the 8th pick. They currently obviously have the 8th pick, which is going to the Rams. So it's traditions continue. Traditions continue. Let's move on to Buffalo beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 44-32. Josh Allen 6 touchdowns. Wasn't as convincing as it should have been at the start. Slow start, 2 touchdowns was concerning, but once he got going, man, you cannot stop he's keeping himself in the MVP race by carrying this team through certain games, and proved it once again this game. Late on, really showed up to help the Buffalo Bills win this.
Yeah, he definitely grew into it because that first interception was very poor. Second one wasn't great, but he definitely shook it off and had himself a massive game. Like you said, it was NFL history. I think, is it Otto Graham is the only other guy to have 3 passing and 3 rushing touchdowns?
That's a good pull. That's a good pull.
But obviously, Graham only did it once. Josh Allen, this is his second game doing it after the game. Cool. I think was it the Lions or was it the Rams last year? He did it. I can't remember. I think it was the Rams.
It was the Rams game, yeah, because that was high scoring.
Yeah, but that's the thing, overcoming those early mistakes and still being able to have such a big game. This was one of those games that Red Zone just kept coming back to, didn't it? It was just like, oh my God, what's happened now? Oh my God, what's happened now? It's just fantastic. I thought Baker, didn't really have the stat line to show for it, but he was still playing nicely. And Sean Tucker was the Bucs player of the game, wasn't he? Really, I mean,
very good player.
It's almost like he must have heard me laughing at the fact that he was the first 50-yard rusher versus the Patriots, and he said, "Hey, I'm a baller, man. Let me
set the tone. Let me set the tone." Also, brilliant. It was brilliant in the receiving game as well. I think that's when you're missing a player like Bucky Irvin to have a third stringer step up like Sean Tucker has done. But we saw it last year. Obviously, we did. The Saints game. He stepped in when needed, but we need Rachaad White's brilliant at coming in when Bucky Irvin's out. But if Sean Tucker can do that role so well, I hate to say, I feel like Rachaad White's just overstayed his welcome now in Tampa. You look at the performances. Sean Tucker outsnapped him this week. Yeah, and I think that's kind of nail in the coffin for Rachaad White's career there. I hate to say it, but I'm really not convinced by this Bucs team. No. I don't like the way they've been playing in these or against playoff teams. You look at obviously the Patriots game; they weren't fantastic there. This Buffalo Bills game, they almost again shot themselves in the foot, especially defensively. I can see if they make the playoffs and if they win the division, I just see them going one and done.
Yeah, I mean, let's just look at their schedule this year, right? So Week 1, 3-point win versus the Falcons. Week 2, 1-point win versus the Texans. Week 3, 2-point win versus the Jets. We're already looking at some really close games against teams they should be beating. The 4 losses they've had this season being the Eagles, Lions, Patriots, and Bills. 4 playoff teams, like you say. They did beat the Seahawks, but it's a 3-point game. And the Niners was a bit more convincing and obviously blew the Saints out the water. But, I think you're right. I think they do sort of just seem like a team that's going to go one and done, especially on account of the fact that they're probably the 4 seed, aren't they? And whatever 5 seed is going to be a potential NFC championship team. So, I wouldn't be feeling great. Obviously, they'll get to host the game, which will make a difference. But I think it will be a tough wildcard matchup for them.
I think you go back and obviously look at that Seahawks game. Look how much healthier the Bucs were at that time as well. They're missing so many key pieces that that's really going to struggle later down the line. And obviously, you look at who that 5th seed is going to be. Highly likely it'll be the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm sure there'll be a big revenge game there for the Seahawks. Let's move on to the Bears beating the Vikings 19-17. The Bears finally have a decent kicker to make crucial kicks, Carlos Santos, with the walk-off game winner after a hell of a return to put him in position. But Ben Johnson is now 6-1 in one-score games as the Bears head coach. That's something that the Bears have not had in a very, very long time.
They're doing a fantastic job seeing games out, and I think you're absolutely right to bring up the return. I think it was Devin Duvernay, wasn't it, the former Raven? I feel like he hasn't quite had the explosive returns this year that we saw. Especially, I think he was All Pro one of the years on the Ravens. But seeing him, run this one back in such a key moment. If this was a touchback or whatever, or stopped at the 20-30, there's no way they're getting in field goal range. And, the big return is able to set them up and, put them in the position to go and win this game, which was so huge in the end. And like you said with Carlos Santos, the Bears have been missing that clutch kicker in the past, haven't they? And I'm sure they were very glad to see this one get in this time.
Yeah, you talk about like double doink and things like that. It's kind of a painful talk for them. But I'm very impressed with the Bears' run game. If they can continue this, that's exactly what's going to carry them into a wildcard spot. You look at DeAndre Swift, obviously going for 90 yards, but the addition of Carmen Ungai as that late round pick has been fantastic. It's the setup. It's Ben Johnson's scheme. It's what he wants to implement to a Chicago Bears offense, and he's doing a fantastic job with that. Caleb, okay, it wasn't the most accurate game from him, but it's game management, and in certain conditions, these are the games that you've got to come out with a win, and he did a very good job of that. On the other side, though, 9 or JJ McCarthy, however you want to refer to him, it was definitely JJ McCarthy this week as opposed to 9. 2 interceptions. It wasn't what we have been. Well, I feel like he was so hyped up at the start of the year with what was promised with, he sat a year, understood Kevin O'Connell's offense, is able to dissect defenses so well. I haven't seen that at all this season.
Yeah, I mean, he was kept clean this game. He didn't get sacked once, and we're still seeing, the interceptions, the inaccuracies, 50% completion. It's not terrible, but, we'd like to see him be a little more accurate. And you can see the frustration starting to creep into that Vikings offense now. We saw it with Justin Jefferson, where he was missed on a wide open, I think it was just hitting the sideline or something. And he wasn't happy, was he? You could see his frustrations going to the sideline. And you feel for him because he's looking around the league and he's seeing these other top receivers, talking about CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra, and they're having quarterbacks that are putting the ball, where they need it. There's every single top receiver in the league has a top quarterback, and unfortunately for Jefferson, he might be number 1, but he's not got a good quarterback. He's not got someone who's getting him the ball.
Do you think it's even more demoralizing with the fact that, okay, let's say 4 out of the 6 quarterbacks taken in that draft class as well are succeeding, one bar injury, but okay, Michael Penix hasn't been, but JJ McCarthy hasn't been either. But if you look at Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Drake May, out of their last 8 games, they're a combined 23-1.
Yeah, I was going to say, my friend sent me that stat this morning.
I thought that was really, that was like, wow, these guys are really performing okay. And Jaden Daniels obviously had the year that he did last year. It's kind of, it can't be a great outlook for the Vikings seeing the success those other quarterbacks are having, knowing
Yeah.
that they had a chance to trade up. They were very vocal on how they wanted Drake May. I feel like Drake May was the perfect Kevin O'Connell quarterback. He's mobile, he can make a play, but you say he's got an absolute cannon of an arm. I feel like imagine him in this offense. We would have seen the success at the start of last season if that was the case.
On the Bears side, as you mentioned, I talked about wanting to do this player of the game sort of mention, and for the Bears, it's got to be Nahshon Wright. Huge interception in the end zone to really help them shift the momentum in Chicago's favor, and obviously he paid tribute to former Laney coach Coach Beam, who was obviously the star of Last Chance U, and hugely entertaining character on the show, but also an unbelievable member of that community. And it was so nice to see him be able to pay tribute and the way he talked about him in postseason, such a big loss for everyone, really. Yeah. So it's nice to see him. He was so happy that he could have that moment during that week.
I think in the locker room, it really showed how much Coach Bean meant to him as well. And I think for also just going on Last Chance U, you look at the start of that show and how head coaches had such a negative outlook. And then obviously he came into the show and he was fantastic. He was such a mentor to every student that went through that university. And I think, it gives credit to what he was as a coach, and seeing some of his players succeed in the NFL is always really nice. So yeah, especially in the week of it happening as well, for him to come out and get an interception was really cool. So yeah, it was a sad bit of news, really. We'll move on to the Green Bay Packers versus the New York Giants. The return of Jameis Winston. I focused on this game a lot Sunday, Sam, because I think he's the most entertaining quarterback.
He's funny, isn't he?
He's so good.
You just have to watch. I mean, anyone that's going to take a QB sneak 10 yards is just must-see football, isn't he? It just couldn't believe it.
I loved this play and I hate this play because I should say that's on the end zone interception at the end, because what I loved is it was typical Jameis Winston. If you watch the play back and you watch him take the snap, have you seen him? He's done it in the past in Cleveland, and Tampa did it loads, where he falls back as he's taking the snap, and he did it again. Yeah. So he's like falling over. So I was already laughing as it was happening, and then it's a complete sell from Jalen Hyatt. It's an obvious corner route because it's cover 2 in the red zone. And it's like, okay, a corner route there is an obvious touchdown. And he just bails on the route, throws the pick. And I was laughing at the start of the play. And then I was gutted instantly because I would have loved an overtime comeback. And I was fully rooting for the Giants.
Oh, 100%,
just to see success from Jameis. But that was demoralizing for me.
Yeah, it was disappointing. I think the other thing is that we just wanted to see him go off for like 400 yards in classic fashion, a bit like he did last year with Cleveland. They kind of held him in check a little bit, the Packers. The interception was another one where you kind of laugh because it's just so Jameis just lobbing it up there. But this Giants team is they're not having a fun year. They've got 2 wins, but they've got to stay positive because the fact that they're taking these games down to the wire, there's not been a single easy win against them. It feels like there's not a single team in the league even going to I think the one team that's really blown them out the water is the Eagles in their game in Philadelphia. But then obviously the reverse fixture, the Giants won, so they've got to feel somewhat positive going forward, and looking forward to getting Neighbors and Scatterbo back, Jackson Dart back, and having that having the whole band back together. There's stuff to look forward to, and maybe they'll be able to finally turn this team around and get them back in the playoffs.
I've just done for the first time this season, Sam, is loaded up Tankathon. And and that's a surprise for a Broncos fan to only load up Tankathon this late on in the season. But I've just seen that the New York Giants have the 2nd overall pick.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm the Giants in that situation, I really like the strength of this roster. And I think the best thing for them to do in this scenario is completely trade out and gather the picks for next year, because we know what 2027 is going to have in store for us. It's going to be wide receiver heaven. This draft as well has also got a number of very talented wide receivers. But I think if there's a team, like the Jets, that are going to be desperate for a quarterback, and the Titans are also in the situation where you can trade out of those early picks, gather some picks for future draft classes, and also get a stud in the top 10. That's exactly what you want to do. I'd be very, very surprised if the Giants actually stick and pick at the second spot this season.
It is funny to think that we could see the top 2 picks both get traded out of this year, couldn't they? I feel like it is.
When was the last time that happened?
Oh God, I wouldn't.
Was
know,
it 2016?
Couldn't even tell you. 2016. Who was that?
That was Goff and Wentz.
Goff and Wentz, wasn't it? Yeah, I was going to say.
That's what I was thinking. If it was, I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's one sooner, but I don't think there is. I'm sticking with that. We're going 2016, so it'd be pretty cool if it happened 10 years later as well.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it. Yeah, so like what? Currently, we're sat at Titans 1, Giants 2, Browns 3, Saints 4, Jets 5. Yeah, interesting to see how who wants to move up. There's obviously a bunch of quarterbacks that could be going in that top 5, top 10 region. Oh God, don't get me excited on draft talk, Miles. I don't need to get in on that already.
Steelers get back to winning ways. They beat the Bengals 34-12. I think the Bengals set a record this week of like the most games conceding more than 27 points in a row.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, that sums up their season really. They've been a write-off. And if Joe Burrow comes back, if you're the Bengals, do you bring Joe Burrow back? Like, do you just say sit for the whole season and get yourself healthy for next year?
I mean, talking about according to the current playoff picture, we're talking about less than 1% playoff probability. At that point, it's not like Joe Flacco's not putting them in the position to win games. So I don't think that's a bad point, really. Just say to Burrow, like, I guess the only thing is they have activated his return window now, wouldn't they? So would they be able to?
They can bring him back. He just obviously he can just sit on the bench.
Right. Yeah,
but then
yeah,
you're benching Joe Burrow. So
yeah, I mean, if it could be for the good of next year, I suppose. But yeah, I get your point. It's not ideal. On that subject of Flacco, this wasn't his biggest week in terms of statistics, but I saw a very funny comparison of his stats in Cleveland versus his stats in Cincinnati. Obviously, he's now had 4 starts with each team. His 4 starts in Cleveland, he had 815 passing yards, 2 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He was averaging 203.8 yards per game with a 60.3 passer rating. Let's go over to Cincinnati, Miles. 1,254 passing yards, 12 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, 313.5 yards per game, and 102.6 passer rating. I know the situations are wildly different, but it does just make me laugh just how much better he's doing in Cincinnati. It just shows just how good the weapons are around him.
Yes.
One final point on that matter. If they average these stats over a 17-game season, Miles, we're looking at 5,330 passing yards, which would be 3rd all-time, and 47 touchdowns. I mean, could you imagine it?
It would be really cool. It'd be really cool. I think it obviously benefits having the opportunities that this defense gives him throughout the game, because he's on the ball 24/7.
Yeah, long field, having to pass to come back.
But also the fact that he's 40 years old doing this, from when we thought this guy's season was done when he was 35. He's done a phenomenal job to bring it back. So fair play, Joe Flacco. The Jags beat the Chargers 35-6. Their complete blowout in that game. It felt very well. If the Chargers cannot fix this offensive line before the playoffs, I'd be certainly worried for them. And they're currently the 6th seed, but you've got the Chiefs bearing down there. You've got the Ravens as well. The Ravens obviously going to be fighting for the division title. The Texans are 5-5 as well. Things are getting nervy for the Chargers.
This has been, I think, the last probably 5 weeks I've been saying I'm not sure about the Chargers. I don't know what's going on with them. I don't really feel confident in them. And they've been proving me wrong. They beat the Vikings. They battered the Vikings by 27, beat the Titans, battered the Steelers last week by 15. This has been the week where we saw that complete capitulation. I think Herbert obviously missed some time during the game. I think, didn't he?
Yes, he did, yeah. Trey Lance came in.
Of course, Trey Lance came in, yeah. But, 6 points against the Jags team that is... it's shipped points in a few games, and it's big for the Jags, because on the flip side, where I said I wasn't sure about the Jags, and the Jags are now proving they can win these big games, but the Chargers were so poor. I think they were like 4-point odds on favorite on the spread, and anyone who went -4 was not enjoying that one.
No, certainly not.
Yeah, it's a big game for the Jags. Seeing Bashal Tootin get his touches and being able to produce was really nice. And Jacoby Myers being that lead receiver is exactly what they spent that draft pick on. So,
It's having a balanced backfield. I think
yeah,
this is
100%.
what teams are adjusting to this season. Having a balanced backfield, keeping everybody fresh, and the Jags have been doing that from week one. If they can continue to increase Bashal Tootin's load each week, I think he'd be a very good sleeper pick. One for next season, but also if people were able to get him in fantasy this season, they've done a great job just for that playoff running. Really, I think you add in the receiving threat that he brings. I think he's a phenomenal asset for that offense. Rams beat the Seahawks 21-19. Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions, but the Seahawks had a chance to win this game at the end with a field goal. I loved what Ernest Jones came out and said at the end of the game. Don't you dare talk about my quarterback, because you think of the opportunities that Sam Darnold has put this team in all season long. I think it was just having the number this week, and the Rams did have Sam. They've always had Sam Darnold's number, and that defense did play very well.
It's funny because I think you're absolutely right. I was going to come on here and say I'm a little bit worried about Darnold, only because the 3 games prior to this he had an interception in each one, and it felt like he was so careful with the ball throughout the start of the season, but he's starting to create these turnovers. But like I say, he's still putting the team in positions to win, and it's great to see how they've got his back. He's obviously a locker room favorite, and he's still putting JSN in unbelievable numbers. I think he was the first player all time to have like over 75 yards in all of his first 10 games in the season or something like that. So he's obviously absolutely flying all year. I think this was really nice to see 2 teams that, like we say, both offensive powerhouses in a way with the players that they've got, but just showing just how good their defenses are as well. This very much could be an NFC Championship preview. The Rams are Super Bowl contenders, just like the Seahawks are, and I think the Rams winning this game, while maybe not looking their best offensively, is a big sign of how they can just gut out performances, and they'll be a real threat going into the playoffs.
I think not looking their best offensively is the correct way to put this game, because that's why at the start when we were going through MVP odds, I was quite surprised. I think Matthew Stafford struggled in this game. Obviously you look at the 2 touchdowns thrown. Yes, obviously he had success in the red zone, but I felt like he was, Matthew Stafford's been known for arm talent and accuracy. That's what he's been throughout his career. And I felt like the accuracy just wasn't there today. I felt like pressure got to him a lot easier. We talk about how athletic this Seahawks defense is. And that's exactly what's going to carry this Seahawks team through the playoffs, is how athletic that defense is, how fresh they're keeping it there. I think they've done a phenomenal job. But we talk about players that, players of the week. I think this game did have the player of the week in it. And it's going to go to someone that I've slated. Well, one I was really high on at the start of his career, and I was really excited for it. And he's had a team change, and this game really showed how well he's done all season. Emmanuel Forbes matched up against Jackson Smith and Jigba 20 times, the most JSN has faced all season. JSN caught 3 of 5 targets for only 30 yards when lined up against Forbes, averaging 1.5 yards per matchup, which is pretty cool considering
one of the only corners that's done that this year, right?
Exactly. Considering this guy started his career at Washington, was known for that terrible, terrible game he had against AJ Brown, where AJ Brown put up, I think, 140 yards on him and 2 touchdowns. He's had a change of scenery, come to LA, and really started to shine in this defense. And look at that stat line there. You put on the tape, and he did a fantastic job. But obviously, you then see JSN's one-handed catch. It came on the opposite side of the ball, so that was good to see for Emmanuel Forbes. But wow, being able to shut down that talent, he's done a brilliant job.
We do love a career revitalization, don't we? In the NFL. I think if I had to pick a player of the game, though, Miles, I've got someone else in that defensive back room for the Rams, and that's Cameron Kinchins. Having 2 interceptions this game.
Yeah.
Did you know that was his 5th and 6th interception of his career, with 4 of them coming against Seattle, which is wild. Cool. He just seems to have Seattle's number, doesn't he?
There's been multiple weeks this season where we've been raving about Cam Kitchens' number, especially even his rookie season last year. We've loved him coming out of college. I think he's been really good. And you talk about how young this Rams defense is. Again, something we've been on about all season. The defensive line have been fantastic, but now it's time the secondary have started to come through and really shine. And if the Rams are really going to push on and be serious contenders for the NFC West, that's exactly what they need. Being able to shut down offenses and create pressure up front. They've done a fantastic job of that.
And going back to what you're saying about the young team, and this is where I want to come back to what I said about the Falcons pick being in the Rams' possession. So like we said, currently the 8 overall, but with Penix out for the season, Drake London probably missing time, there's a good chance that pick only goes higher. So we could now see the Rams select their quarterback of the future to take over from Matthew Stafford when he retires, which could be, we don't know where these guys are going to go yet. It's early days, but it's going to be huge for the Rams to potentially do the whole Green Bay, pick someone, give him a year or two while Stafford finishes out his career. A great mentor to have, go into a great system, great head coach, and then it will just keep this Super Bowl train moving, this Super Bowl window. On the flip side, you've got other playmakers. We've got receivers. I'm thinking about adding to that safety room, someone like Caleb Downs coming in and being able to join that Rams defense would be unbelievable. But also even adding a wide receiver to come into opposite Puka Nacua. I mean, Devontae Adams obviously there, and then having a first round pick for a top 10 pick to come in as well. It's exciting to be. If you're a Rams fan, it's got to be exciting right now. We're talking about a team that is a top 5 team in the league right now, a definite Super Bowl contender, and they could be even better next year.
How long do you think Matthew Stafford will continue to play in the NFL?
It's funny you say this because I had a conversation about this literally Sunday, where I was saying I can't believe at the start of the year I was ready to say goodbye to Matthew Stafford and say that this is it. This is his last. He's not even going to finish the season. His back's all kind of messed up, and we're not going to see him finish the year, and it's going to be the Rams not even making the playoffs, having to have with Jimmy G. And here he is, the MVP odds-on favorite. He's been unbelievable this year. It could well be on his way to a second Super Bowl ring. And then you're just saying, how much longer can he keep it up? I mean, I feel like surely he's the clock's ticking. Let's be real.
The clock is ticking, exactly. And that's why I think if they do win a Super Bowl this year, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see him just walk off in the sunset and just be like, yeah, cool. I've achieved it all now. I got an MVP and another Super Bowl. That'd be fantastic. But even so, I think 2 years is a reasonable amount. So the end of this year and finishing off next season is what I'd expect from Matthew Stafford.
That would be my guess. Yeah.
Right, let's talk about the other NFC West matchup. The San Francisco 49ers beat the Arizona Cardinals 41-22 in Brock Purdy's return, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. I've been a critic of Brock Purdy for a very long time, but that was a poised performance from Brock Purdy. Fantastic job coming back, and he looked like he'd been playing all season. So very, very well done, Brock Purdy.
Yeah, this was a key game for him because it was quite easy to see him come back looking rusty. All the conversation about whether Mac Jones should be keeping this offense, but yeah, he did exactly what he needed to do.
He was phenomenal.
He was on point. He was efficient. He found his receivers. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, only 7 incompletions. Couldn't ask for more, could you?
I think not putting himself in trouble was the vital thing for Brock Purdy this week. I didn't want him scrambling around and trying to force plays outside of the pocket. He was poised. He sat in there, delivered on time. You look at his connection to George Kittle is brilliant. Obviously, having the success from Christian McCaffrey alongside him is fantastic for this offense. And, we talk time and time again about the play calling. It is just on point every single time. And they proved it again this week with a convincing win against the Cardinals. But on the other side of the ball, we did see records broken again.
Unbelievable.
Jacoby Brissett, 57 attempts in a game is wild.
Yeah. And it was the 47 completions that got him that NFL record. Do you want to know something that I found really funny about this, Miles? Despite the 47 completions and the 452 yards, 2 touchdowns, his QB rating, according to ESPN, was 23.5, which to me just says that stat is just bogus.
Yeah, bogus stat, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Because his passer rating was 96.8, but yeah, the QBR, which is supposed to be...
It's the 2 picks that throw it,
Yeah, but it's supposed to be quite a good stat in terms of how much it collates to make this metric. But 23.4 was a bit mental. And I think the best part as well is I think that's actually lower than Cam Ward's average this season, which is a feel for him. But I thought that was such a weird. I saw that this morning. I was like, yeah, that can't be right. He's only 10 incompletions as well. 47 to 57 is absolutely wild. And who was the beneficiary? Not just Trey McBride, who we expected, but Michael Wilson taking that wide receiver one spot. And I feel like we knew this coming out of the draft. We knew he was a big player, and given the opportunities, he would respond. But he just never really had wide receiver one opportunities as he's grown into his role. But this is his opportunity. He got the ball. Brissett was a willing thrower all game, obviously. 15 catches for 185 yards is just wild for him.
I mean, you look at like previous seasons where Michael Wilson's been involved in the offense. We've never really seen him shine. We're talking about basically a man that averages 500 yards every single season. If he can, really step up and produce big for this offense, their wide receiver 2 is technically Trey McBride, but I'd like to see more from Michael Wilson going forward.
Yeah,
more games. Obviously, you're not going to get games on this level of 180 yards and what was it, like 10 receptions or whatever. But, I'd like to see him more involved in the offense. Let's continue to get the ball to him, because in open field, he was fantastic today. Or today, I mean Sunday. But yeah, he was really good. I do believe, though, we have seen the end of the Kyler Murray reign in Arizona.
Feels like it, doesn't it?
I feel like it's time to move on. It's time to have a fresh face there. You look at where they currently have the 10th pick. They've got ammo to move up. I think it might be time to move on.
Yeah, it's a shame, because I go back to that season when we where it felt like we were seeing an MVP year from him, wasn't it? I can't remember how many years ago it was now, but those first 6 or 7 weeks, he was definitely one of the top quarterbacks in the league, and it was unbelievable to see him playing this well. And then I think there was an injury and he started tailing off. We didn't see it. Haven't seen it since then. His current deal runs through 2028, so he's still got some time on his contract. But yeah, it could be a trade candidate, release candidate,
exactly.
Just back up. I don't know. The fact that Jacoby Brissett has come in and been able to find the receivers that Kyler hasn't. Trey McBride's touchdowns before and after the quarterback change is just unbelievable. You have to go all the way back to the game against the Titans, and I think that's week 5 for the last time Trey McBride didn't have a touchdown in a game. Since then, 5 games. 5 games and 6 touchdowns. I mean, he's been unbelievable.
He's been on fire. And you especially look at last season with Trey McBride. What was it? Just 1 touchdown in total as well.
Exactly.
Look at the change that he's had this season. Way more involved in the offense. That's what we need to see more from what people have pictured the number 1 tight end in the NFL. So that's the standard that we expect week in, week out. Your Baltimore Ravens, Sam, won 23-16 in Cleveland. The headline of the game was probably that Mr. Shedeur Sanders made his NFL debut.
He finally got his go, didn't he?
He did.
I was disappointed it was against the Ravens. I can't lie.
Because you have been big on Shedeur. You want to see him succeed, and it wasn't the most convincing of performances.
No, it was a weird feeling, because, as I said last week, I hate watching Ravens versus Browns in Cleveland. I hate watching AFC North games in the where the Ravens are the away team, because it's always nervy, and especially this game. It felt like we weren't great in the first half, and I was just waiting for us to finally come back into it. Shedeur comes in, and then like I said, you said it best. I really want to see him succeed, and he was making plays, and I was in 2 minds. I was like, damn it, but also, nice throw, but it wasn't a good game for him, was it? 4-16, had the interception. It's disappointing, but it's nice that they're finally giving him a go, and hopefully this means that he'll see out the rest of the season. There's some nice matchups coming down the road that will hopefully, we'll get a better look at him. But this wasn't an easy matchup against this Ravens defense.
It wasn't.
A lot better.
No, it certainly wasn't. But what I'd like to see is Shedeur have a full week of prep and go and take a game, in full stride. Really, I think obviously with Dylan Gabriel being out with, what was it, a concussion? I think it was.
Oh, I thought they'd just benched him. I didn't.
I think it was a concussion. So it's highly likely he's going to miss the Raiders game next week. And I think if there's a team to come up against, for Shedeur's purpose of a team that was so high in drafting him, everyone wanted him to go to Vegas. If his first win comes against Vegas, that would be a really good fairy tale story to start his NFL career, I feel.
Yeah. On the Ravens side, like I said, it didn't feel like a fantastic game. But one guy, Mars, let me get a little bit biased. I know I can hear all the listeners going, here he goes, right. Um, Kyle Hamilton, Mars.
Special
So
talent.
this game recorded 9 tackles, 1 sack, 3 TFLs, 2 passes defended, and 1 forced fumble. Almost had the pick if he could only catch interceptions in Cleveland. This is 2 years straight now. He's dropped the pick. He's only the second player ever to have that stat line of at least 9 tackles, sack, 3 TFL, 2 whatever. But which joined Peter Bolware, former Raven, which is quite cool. But he is the first DB in NFL history to do that, and it just shows now that we've had this defensive reconfiguration of moving him into the box, close to the line of scrimmage, just watching the plays he makes, the sack he gets, there's a great angle of it from behind Shadur, where you're just seeing Kyle Hamilton stare down the A gap, and he bounces off the running back trying to block him with a spin move and then takes him down. I thought, this is where the bar's going to come in, Miles. Kyle Hamilton is not being talked about enough as a defensive player of the year. And the problem is that Myles Garrett is just going to run away with it. And that, again, this is the game to talk about it, really, where he had his 4-sack performance, where he did look dominant, and our O-line was absolutely atrocious. But it's really annoying because it's one of those players. There's always years where there's just one runaway candidate for an award, and then there's another guy. Really looking at last year, the way that Saquon was the runaway offensive player of the year, and poor Jamar Chase was there with a triple crown and had nothing to show for it. This feels like one of those years where I think Kyle Hamilton has just been so key to our defense. Not only is he putting up numbers to say that he could be defensive player of the year, but just from a pure, he's so necessary to our defense. Last year we had to move him to the back end to fix our defense. This year we've moved him to the line of scrimmage to fix our defense. He's so key. I don't think there's a single other player in the NFL, other defender in the NFL that is just as important and able to be so versatile to help the defense out. So yeah, I can't imagine. I'm assuming you've just looked up the odds. Have you?
He is nowhere near the top.
See, it's just that. I think I'm going to call it defensive back tax. We saw Pat Satan. I was hoping he might change the narrative, but go on.
I'm trying to find.
Where is he? Can you not find him?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
My gosh, yes, I'm looking at now.
18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24.
This has gotten behind Antoine Winfield.
24th, and there's 1, 2, 3 defensive backs ahead of him.
Being what?
Derwin James,
Whoa,
Antoine Winfield Jr. and Christian Gonzalez are all ahead of him.
I mean, Gonzo's been incredible. And corners will get it for the fact that they just locked down, especially he's been locked down all season.
I'd also like to point out there's 2 Broncos ahead of him as well.
So, okay, well done. Well, that's good for you. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm going to sound really biased, and I'm okay with that because Kyle Hamilton's been phenomenal, and he, like I said, he won't get his flowers, and I think it's fair. I think there's, the guys at the top of the odds are obviously there deservingly, but Hamilton's got to get a nod, man. He's just been unbelievable this year.
I think when you make the TikTok clip, you have to at him just to try and get some credit for that, Sam.
Yeah.
We'll move on to... we've gone for your team. Let's talk about my team now. Broncos beat the Chiefs 22-19. About time Bo Nix got some credit. That is a performance I want to see. Very special from him. It didn't have to be, I'm going to carry the team forward. It was, again, very, very similar to what Brock Purdy did. Poised in the pocket, going through his reads, the great progression, and coming out with the win. Huge performance from the Denver defense. But 15 on the other side, Patrick Mahomes did not look like the Patrick Mahomes we are used to seeing. If you start off the game going 0 for 4 on 3 wide open touchdowns, that's concerning enough. The crucial red zone interception to Jaquan McMillan. There was numerous, and on that drive should have had a pick 6 as well. Might I add? But I was very shocked with the way that the Chiefs played, especially after coming off a bye and having that full week to go through prep and come out with some of the plays they came with was just very surprising to me.
Miles, this is the point where I go hand up accountability. I said, I need more from the Broncos, and this is what I wanted. They were so average against the Raiders. And we looked at this game
and the
Texans.
And the
yeah,
Texans.
Exactly. And we said, you've got the Chiefs. This is, do you want to win the division? This is the game you've got to win. A 4-game lead they now have on the Chiefs. It's unbelievable. 9-2 versus 5-5. this is exactly what I want from the Broncos. If they play like this every week, they are making the AFC Championship. I'm going to say it like this is the potential that they have. This defense is phenomenal, and if Bo Nix is going to play like this, be more methodical, be accurate, find his guys. I love seeing the ball get shared around with so many different people with a reception this game. This is what we wanted to see from the Broncos. This is much, much better than what we've seen the last few weeks. And you mentioned him, and again, player of the week. I think not just player of the game, but player of the week across the NFL. Jaquan McMillan. I talked about Kyle Hamilton. He had an incredible game. Talked about Cameron Kinchins. He had an incredible game. But the best safety this week was McMillan. Obviously, the 2 sacks and the interception, and he was making big plays in coverage. I think I saw him he got beat once deep by Tyquan Thornton, but other than that, it felt like every time he was in the picture, he was making a big play, and he was fired up as well. I kept seeing him chirping with guys and looking like he was trying to fight O-line.
Kelsey one, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at him and I was thinking, oh God, he's going to get ejected, isn't he? But no, he was using that rage to fuel this game. He was on fire all game. It was awesome.
I think that goes as well for the entire Broncos secondary. I think they've all stepped up very, very well, despite missing the Defensive Player of the Year in Pat Surtain. Obviously, Riley Moss still has the DPI. He had a few calls this week. That's going to happen, especially on underthrown passes as well. But the step up from Chris Abrams-Drain to come in there has done a fantastic job. You look at how Hufanga is a fantastic strong safety stepping down into the box.
Yeah,
and what Brandon Jones has done as well. He's been very consistent for them. I love what you said about Bo spreading the ball. About Troy Franklin these last couple of weeks has probably turned into the number one target for this offense. I think his release has been fantastic. The way he can create separation in open space, he's done a fantastic job there. The big concern now is the run game. How is this team going to adjust without having J.K. Dobbins for the rest of the season? I'd like to see R.J. Harvey step up in future weeks, but when there wasn't a run game, the pressure was on Bo Nix. He was able to perform and did it at a phenomenal level this week. And, beating a Kansas City Chiefs team where if you look at the fixture last year where it came down to the field goal to get blocked, Bo could be 2-0 against Patrick Mahomes. He's 1-1 now in his career. That would have been really cool if that was the case. But it certainly opens up things for this AFC West title now. The Broncos, 96% chance of making the playoffs, 9-2 on the season. The Chargers, 7-4, closest to them, where they've got to play each other on the final game of the season in Denver. It's looking good for the Denver Broncos.
Absolutely. And like I said earlier about the Chargers looking like they're in a bit of a slide right now, it really benefits them. And when you look at that Broncos schedule, oh my gosh, Commanders, Raiders, we should be 2 wins there. Packers will be a tough one. Jags, Chiefs, Chargers, 4 tough games to finish it, but 4 winnable games. Definitely should take 2, maybe 3 of them. If I had to make a prediction now, I'd be saying Broncos have this NFC West, the AFC West sorted. But yeah, obviously it comes down to this consistency. I want to see them play like this every week now. This taking this momentum into the playoffs. They'll be a real force when it comes down to it.
Absolutely, it's tempo. If the Broncos offense can maintain tempo, that's exactly what they need. You can see the adjustment they made in the second half to be more efficient with play calling, get the play call in early, being able to dissect the defense. That's what Bo Nix did phenomenally. In that 3rd and 15, where he had to convert to keep that final drive alive, you can see him go to the line, change the play. He recognizes the defense, rolls outside the pocket, and fires a dart to Cortland Sutton for 15 yards. And I don't know if you saw it, but it was literally the tip of the ball that went over the line as well to get it. I thought that was really cool. Let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Detroit Lions 16-9. We talked about Dan Campbell's play calling last week. Let's talk about it again this week, Sam. 5 attempts on 4th down, all failed this week.
Yeah,
concerning.
I always love their confidence in this respect. They always believe that they have the stats and metrics to back it up, and that's great for them. But 5 4th down attempts, I believe at least 3 or 4 of them in field goal range. That's the game won. We're talking about a 7-point loss. All you need is 3 field goals. They were in field goal range 3 times. I know it was very, very windy in Philly, and I believe Bates did miss a field goal, didn't he? He missed the PAT, didn't he?
PAT.
But he nailed that. Was it like a 54 yarder? So he's an incredible kicker. You still got to have confidence in him. I don't think it was the fact that they didn't have confidence in him kicking. They're the team that are going to go for it on fourth down. I think sometimes you've just got to recognize where it's a low scoring game. You maybe don't need to, you know, I meant to, one of the things I meant to look at was the yardage they had on these fourth down attempts. 4th and 2 was the fake punt, and you can give them credit for that one. That's a decent spot to go for it. 4th and 5, I don't love it. Fourth and goal, obviously. Now that's a big one because
you have to kick.
Yeah,
there.
you have to go. You're saying you have to kick.
I think you have to kick there. You need in one a defensive battle on both sides of the ball. You need points on the board wherever possible. But the problem is, the longer you leave it, the more you actually have to go for it on fourth down. And I think that's in ways what shot Dan Campbell in the foot, because he'd gone for it 4 out of 5 times, and then 4 out of 4 times, and then it comes down to the final time where you need to go for it to actually convert that. I mean, that third quarter, they had 3 drives fail on downs.
Yeah,
that's agonizing for any offense. One drive was like 9 plays of 69 yards. They came out with nothing. That's what's killing them. But I also just think Jared Goff was extremely poor in this game. You're not completing over 20 of your passes is really, really bad. And you, especially against the reigning Super Bowl champions, if you're going to challenge for that number 1 seed again, you have to win these games, and they failed to do that.
Yeah, I think he did look inaccurate, didn't he? And I think it was the 4th and goal play where he tried to force it to the back of the end zone to J-Mo, and it seemed like he had Brock Wright underneath, like pretty much open. So he felt like he was forcing the ball where it wasn't the play to be made. And it's disappointing because, like we said last week, we were so excited about seeing Dan Campbell going forward, calling these plays, and 9 points is not what we wanted to see. It is nice to see, though, that J-Mo Williams is getting his touches. It's only the 4 catches, but seeing him in space is unbelievable. I came up with an idea earlier, Miles, where I was watching some of the Cowboys Raiders highlights, and we'll get onto it. In fact, I believe that's our next game to cover.
That is our next game, so we may as well move straight onto that. Yeah. So go on.
But the point. So obviously the Cowboys winning 33-16. We saw the 2 wide receivers of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens going absolutely wild, as they have been all season. For me, so I think it's not an outlandish statement to say that T. Higgins has been everyone's favorite wide receiver 2 for a while now, probably a good 2 years maybe.
Yeah.
I think we've seen Devontae Adams coming this year, but George Pickens for me is the number 1 wide receiver 2 in the league.
Agree.
And that's not even it's not even close. I think T. Higgins is fantastic, but George Pickens has just been so good this year. 9 catches, 144 yards and the touchdown. The touchdown was brilliant as well. Just, the elusiveness for a guy of his size. But the point I'm trying to make, going back to J-Mo Williams, is that I feel like J-Mo could be in this bracket of top end wide receiver 2s if he gets his touches. I think he's so electric with the ball in his hands, but there's so many mouths to feed on the Lions offense. I feel like he's just not able to get loads of targets in the way that Higgins and Pickens do. And also in the fact that he's just a completely different kind of player.
Now, what was promised from, I'm trying to think of the original offensive coordinator's name. Is it John Morton? John Morton. He promised at the start of the year that this was going to be Jameson Williams' offense, and he was going to get so involved in it. And obviously that didn't come true. And I honestly think the reason why Dan Campbell then took over the play calling, let's get J-Mo involved more, and did a brilliant job with that last week, and then failed. Well, okay, he got him a bit more involved this week. Like you said, he should be easily in the top 5 wide receiver 2s in the NFL. But if you look at his career, he hasn't shown that. And again, that can be due to him not getting the ball and not, because in open space he's phenomenal. So if you can, there's so many ways for him to get him the ball by screens and dialing up pick players to have him in open field and start making plays on the defense. I need to see more of it, and I do think in the next couple of weeks we will see that, and there will be this conversation in week 16 where we say, right, Jameson Williams is a top 3, top 2, maybe even wide receiver 2 in the NFL.
Yeah, I think come playoffs time they're going to need to work that one out and really show get him involved and get him making big plays because he'll be so key for them down the stretch. He's definitely needed for Detroit.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll continue on that Cowboys game, though. I love what you said about Pickens and CD Lamb. They are brilliant. This Cowboys offense is so good in the air once they get going, but also the addition of Javonte Williams, we say it week in, week out, has been brilliant. Questions need to be raised in Vegas now. Obviously, you brought in Pete Carroll this offseason. His head is already on the chopping block, which is surprising.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him give him a bit more time there, but also questions have got to be raised. Why are we employing Chip Kelly in this day and age? I mean, this offense just doesn't work. It might be because of Geno Smith, but you're paying this man what's rumored to be $10 million a year as an offensive coordinator, and he's just failing to produce an efficient offense week in, week out. We've selected one of the best running backs in recent memory with the, what was it? Like sixth overall pick, and he's getting 6 carries for 7 yards.
Yeah,
and a safety to go along with it. So
it's not good enough. And they had such a big draft class this year as well, didn't they? So many picks, and it just feels like it hasn't really turned anything around. It's funny to think that as a 2-win team, the Raiders obviously beat the Titans, and their first win of the season came in week 1 against the Patriots. You know, how crazy is that to think where these two teams have flipped completely opposite? But I feel like they have the pieces on this team. They're just not putting it together. And I think defensively, they just haven't been great as well. I feel like Max Crosby is still playing fantastic, but he's not even getting any sort of attention now because the Raiders have just been so poor. And I feel like the Raiders should be a more covered team in that respect because of the the history of the franchise and where they are as a, supposedly one of the big. I feel like especially we see it in the UK where they seem to be a very popular team.
Yeah,
but it's interesting to see that this team just can't get it clicking, can they?
Absolutely. Right, let's rattle through some predictions for Week 12, Sam. Thursday Night Football, Texans versus the Bills in Houston. Who are you going with?
Oh my gosh, do I pick the Houston Texans to upset the Bills here? No, I'm going to go with the Bills, but I tell you what, it's going to be a tight one. I think this Texans defense is going to be a fantastic matchup for the Bills.
Best defense in the NFL on a short week is very favorable for that home team, but I just can't. Like, the Bills are just chasing this AFC East. They have to win. Steelers Bears. Who are you taking?
Oh, I feel like the Bears are ready to lose again. They've won a few too many in a row, so I will go with the Steelers, but I would obviously like them to keep that win streak going.
I'm going Chicago here. I think this is, they are flying, and it might come down to another fourth quarter comeback from Caleb Williams.
Think about it. No Jalen Ramsey as well. Obviously, he got ejected and then suspended.
True.
So maybe that'll change how the defense
Which is
works.
barbaric, by the way. If you're getting spat on, that is the complete reasonable reaction for it. Like, that's entirely fair.
I'm very glad that Chase got his week suspension as well, because the fact that he tried to deny it as well, it's like they caught you in 4K, man. There's so many cameras in that stadium. It's so poor.
Speaking of the Bengals, Patriots-Bengals, I think we're both going Patriots. They're quite an easy one there.
And I tell you what, it's great for the Patriots because Gonzo will be able to have a great matchup against Chase and then have Higgins maybe go off on the other side. But now with no Chase, Gonzo can take on Higgins, and then the Bengals are going to have to look elsewhere for passing production, and I don't think they'll find it.
Yeah. Lions, Giants, I think in Detroit, we both go the Lions there.
Yeah.
Vikings versus the Packers in Lambeau Field, Sam?
God, I just no faith in JJ McCarthy. I want to say that this Vikings defense is going to make the game close, but I just don't think the offense will be able to help them out. So I'll go with the Packers.
I think if you look at that Packers offense this week, it wasn't convincing one bit. No. But if JJ McCarthy had a bit of rhythm to him, I would be picking the Vikings here, but I can't. So I'm going Packers.
This would be like 10-7 or something like that, won't it?
It'll be very low score. Seahawks, Titans in Nashville. Give me the Seahawks.
Yeah, got to be Seattle.
Colts versus Chiefs. This is going to be a good early game kickoff. It's in Kansas City. The Chiefs need a win. If they're going to put pressure on the AFC West, I'm going Chiefs.
Yeah, I worry about the Colts being able to deal with this tricky Chiefs defense. But they had the bye week to prepare. They should be ready for this. So I'll go with the Colts.
Kind of want to check the spread because I feel like the Colts will be favourites. But I want to know what it is by. The Colts are 3-point underdogs.
Oh, okay.
+3 might be a pick there for the Indianapolis Colts. Jets, Ravens. Easy Ravens. I'm not wasting
Tyrod
time.
Taylor starting for the Jets in this game
Wow.
as well.
Against his old
get
team.
to play against his old team. That'll be interesting.
That's
but yeah,
pretty
hopefully
good.
we'll come out with this one.
Browns Raiders, all eyes on this game. Wow. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, we should do a Sanders first NFL win.
That's what I want to see. What are the odds there? Raiders -3.5. I'm taking Browns.
-3.5. Yeah, I tell you what, this Browns defense is going to batter the Raiders.
That's what
offense,
I
feel like. Come on, surely.
Jags Cardinals. Give me the Jags.
Yes. Yeah. No, the Jags were great this week.
Jags are great. Yeah. Eagles Cowboys. Give me the Dallas Cowboys to beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
Here we go.
In Dallas as well. I see where you're going.
It's only 3.5 split.
I like it. That's interesting.
Eagles obviously favourites.
I will take the Eagles. But I do like, the Cowboys could make this very difficult. I just can't see the defense giving them a chance.
This is the worst late slate I've ever seen. Falcons Saints to finish it off.
It is as well, isn't it?
In New Orleans. My goodness, I'm going to bed early this week.
Yep.
Give me the Saints.
Oh,
they've come off a bye. Give me the Saints.
Big
Saints are
Kirko.
favourites, 1.5 points.
Big Kirko as well for Atlanta, won't it? But I feel like Big Kirko is more of a small Kirko nowadays.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
he ain't got that. He ain't got that.
Yeah, I'll take the Saints as well.
Bucks versus the Rams. Give me the Rams.
This is a good game.
This is a good game. Why can't this be the 9:00 game?
Yeah, really I know, yeah.
And then finally, Panthers versus the 49ers in San Francisco. Give me the Niners as a touchdown favourite. Wow. Finally, Sam, touchdown scorers. We've been poor recently. Need to step it up. I am going to go for Jahan Dotson for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Very nice. Give me Cedric Tillman.
Cedric Tillman. Nice. No,
I feel like he was.
Will that be Shadur's first touchdown throw?
Ooh, I will say. You know what? Go on then.
That'd be good.
We'll double down.
Double down on that. That wraps up this week's episode of 4 Down Territory. Make sure you're following us on all of our socials, FDT_podcast, and we'll see you all next time.